Unveiling by Linda Pastan. In the cemetery, a mile away from where we used to live, my aunts and mother, my father and uncles lie in two long rows, almost the way they used to sit around the long, planked table at family dinners. And walking beside the graves today, down one straight path and up the next, I don't feel sad for them. Just left out a bit, as if they kept from me the kind of grown-up secret they used to share back then. Something I'm not quite ready yet to learn. The author of Unveiling is Linda Pastan. Linda Pastan was raised in New York City, but she lived most of her life in Potomac, Maryland. After attending high school, she went to Radcliffe College, where she won the Mademoiselle Poetry Prize her senior year in attendance. After this, she concentrated on raising her family, but she had to give up poetry because of this. However, 10 years later, her husband encouraged her to return to poetry, so she slowly began to write again. She focused on themes of marriage, parenting, and grief. She also had an extreme interest in the anxieties that exist under the surface of everyday life. Linda Pastan won many awards, such as the Dylan Thomas Act, the Pushcart Prize, the Bess Hogan Act, the 2003 Ruth Lilly Poetry Prize, and the 1986 Maurice English Poetry Forum. Linda Pastan uses imagery, enjambment, and no real rhyme, meter, or form to express her childlike loneliness yet innocence in connection with loss. Pastan first uses imagery throughout her poem at many points to put the reader in the perspective of the narrator. It makes the poem much more easy to connect to. When she says in lines 1 through 3, for example, "In the cemetery, a mile away from where we used to live," the reader can really picture the cemetery that is close to their home or that their family is buried in. The imagery puts the reader immediately in the setting that the poet wants the mood to be set in. This mood of death and loss is felt more easily because of this imagery. Another time imagery is used is in lines 10 through 13. "And walking beside the graves today, down one straight path and up the next." This line makes the reader feel the walk the narrator is taking. This imagery makes the whole poem more solemn and relatable because most people have lost someone important in their life. Another device Pastan uses is enjambment. The effect this has is dramatic in the fact that it makes the poem more story-like and more relatable. The poem becomes less formal. It also puts emphasis on every word in the poem. Because the lines are so short due to the enjambment, each line has its own meaning, which is easier to understand with the use of enjambment. For example, in line 7, Pastan says, "They used to sit around," and in line 8, "the long planked table." The effect of splitting this up makes the reader think about these lines separately first and then connect them. Also, in line 21, she says, "I'm not quite ready yet," and in line 22, "to learn." This split breaks down the overall theme of innocence. With the lines separated through enjambment, it becomes more apparent that the narrator is not prepared to experience all of the world being the secret all of her dead family members share. Finally, Pastan uses no real rhyme, meter, or form to also express the theme of childlike loneliness and innocence in connection with loss, because with no real form, the poem takes on a childlike tone. The poem has no real structure, which also shows the story-like nature of the poem. This makes Unveiling more relatable and more innocent. This innocence can be seen through Pastan's words in lines 16 through 18. "As if they kept me from the kind of grown-up secret." The diction, along with the use of no rhyme or meter, makes the poem reflect more childlike innocence. Overall, in Linda Pastan's Unveiling, a poem about a first-person narrator walking up and down her family's graves reflecting on her emotional state, the use of repeated imagery, enjambment, and no real rhyme, meter, or form reveals Pastan's theme of childlike loneliness yet innocence in connection with loss.